say is the defendant at the bar, leaving the scene after accident resulting in death. The defendant not guilty or guilty? So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you all?
The standard in the civil lawsuit is far different than the beyond a reasonable doubt standard applicable in the criminal case. So the hurdles that the O'Keefe family will have to overcome are lesser than the prosecution has in the criminal case.
And the second thing I want to say is no one has fought harder for justice for John O'Keefe than I have and my team. Thank you.
That was Karen Reed after she was acquitted of killing her boyfriend back in June. A new attorney is in the mix, though, in the wrongful death lawsuit. That could make a difference in the outcome here. The O'Keefe family filed the lawsuit naming Reed along with the two bars that the couple and their friends were drinking at before John O'Keefe's death. O'Keefe's family is now seeking to add California-based lawyer Bibianne Fell to the mix. Here's a background on Bibi. Founded the San Diego Fell law firm, focuses on catastrophic injury, wrongful death cases. 2018, second largest personal injury verdict in California, over $100 million. She is good. She's good at what she does. The suit alleges that the same events as the criminal prosecutors alleged, basically that Reed was drunk, drove her SUV, hit John O'Keefe, left him to die in the snow. He suffered serious injuries and died, and she left. So we're asking, how will Bibi impact the O'Keefe versus Reed civil trial? Let's bring in to discuss retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer and criminal defense attorneys Joe Tamburino and David Bruno are still with us. All right, Jennifer, what does this move the ball for the O'Keefe's lawsuit against Karen Reed?
Well, I think the best thing about Bibi is she brings all of this experience and particular expertise in this area of wrongful death, and that's what the O'Keefes needed. Listen, she has gotten so many suits settled and won huge verdicts in court, so she's a good litigator. Specifically, I note a $5 million judgment that was rendered after a child was hit on a bike. I think that those facts kind of closely mimic this. I look for Bibi to come in like a firestorm.
Joe Tamburino, this is a building up. You've got Alan Jackson hanging on with Karen Reed on the civil case as well, helping that team out. Now you're seeing the O'Keefes also bolstering their forces, to Jennifer's point. And Bibi's a good litigator. It's not, she's not a civil attorney that's afraid to go into a courtroom. She will fight it all the way to the end with a jury, and it looks like that's where this thing's going.
Yes, and whoever the O'Keefes hire, they've got a really good chance of winning this case for three reasons. Number one is less burden of proof. They only have to prove preponderance that Ms. Reed killed Mr. O'Keefe. Preponderance means more likely than not. Number two, Ms. Reed will testify because in the civil case, she won the criminal. She doesn't have a right against, self-incrimination. So she could be called to testify at trial. She could be deposed. And number three, you're going to have less outside influences. I don't think in this civil process, you're going to have a lot of outside influences like, the Turtle Boy factor and everybody else who was outside of the courthouse. I just don't see that happening in the civil case. So overall, whoever the O'Keefes hire, they've got a really good shot at winning the civil case.
I don't know about that, Joe. I don't know that there's not going to be an army of people outside anywhere where Karen Reed is, because for whatever reason, people are just all in. David Bruno, your thoughts on the addition of Bibi to the O'Keefe team?
Yeah, I'm with Joe on this one. I think the plaintiffs are in a strong position just because of the difference of the burden of proof. The best example of that is the OJ case, right? He was acquitted on the criminal. He was found liable in the civil. And that's the difference in the burden of proof. For the plaintiffs in the case in O'Keefe's family, they really need someone to manage the circus. I mean, this has been a circus, to say the least, honestly, with Turtle Boy, and then the allegations about law enforcement misconduct and all the things. So I think what Bibi brings, at least to the team, is the ability to sort of manage the chaos, because that's exactly what's happening here. It happened in the criminal case. We could expect it again in the civil case. And I think that it's good that she's added, but I think that they are already in a very good position in a different venue.
Reed's team may have picked up a small victory after the judge in this case dismissed a claim of emotional distress from John O'Keefe's niece. Here's some portion of that argument from the plaintiff's attorney.
Karen Reed plots, she fabricates a conspiracy, she launches a public campaign of disinformation, and she involves a blogger named Turtle Boy. She leaks not for public information through him. She pits her followers against the O'Keefe family, and all the while, Karen knows that the O'Keefe family is also vulnerable, grieving another tragedy in their family. The O'Keefes and Kaylee suffer severe emotional distress. It's more than anguish and more than grief, and it is not overlapping with the wrongful death statute.
Although the judge agreed to dismiss that claim, he did rule that other claims of reckless or intentional infliction of emotional distress can stand, pointing to Reed's narrative. The parties are due back in court in November. No trial date's been set. So we're asking which side has an advantage so far. Jennifer, it is really early in the civil process. When you factor in the Reed team's threat, if you will, that they are going to be launching lawsuits against Proctor et al., and they want them to be enveloped into this case. The judge has to decide on that. I mean, the deadline for discovery isn't until December of next year. This is not going to trial anytime soon, but at this early juncture, this is the question, so let's answer it. Who does have an advantage at this point?
Well, the facts would tell you, based on this new burden of proof in the civil, as Joe has discussed and David discussed, it's so much lower. So for that reason alone, I believe the O'Keefes have the advantage. The facts absolutely support that he was hit by the car, that he was hit by Karen Reed, but the burden has to be met, and this one is much lower. So for that reason, they have the advantage at this point.
Joe, you agree?
Well, yeah, like I said before, I think they do have the advantage. And, you know, David mentioned about the OJ case, and that is the quintessential example of somebody winning in the criminal side, not guilty, but losing in the civil side. And what was a determining factor in that case? OJ had to testify, and he was horrible. And the same thing's going to happen here. Karen Reed will have to testify in the civil case. Now, if there's no trial, she'll still be deposed. She'll be under oath, and the plaintiff's attorneys are going to be grilling her left and right. And she's never gone through that before because she didn't testify at her criminal trials. So I still think the plaintiffs will have the upper hand in this.
Just because of the rules of the road, let's talk about if it goes to trial, as you say. Well, the judge sort of gave both sides a pep talk and said, you don't want this to go to trial, people. Take a listen.
The parties also have another way to do this case. They can do it by way of potential resolution. And I mean this sincerely when I say that being a judge for many years, you learn things. And what you learn is that oftentimes litigation is an inartful way to try to resolve parties' disputes. There's alternative dispute resolution, there's mediation, there's all kinds of other avenues that we advance to try to get people what they want, which is resolution of a case. The most important thing, it would seem to me, to any party to this case, is to resolve the uncertainty, right?
David, do you think there's a chance this thing does settle?
Yeah, see, that judge is doing what judges do. They're trying to get those cases out of their courtroom, and that judge knows exactly what he's getting into. I mean, the trial that we had in the criminal case, the two trials, now coming into the civil case, is going to take time. It's going to take court resources. It's going to take a lot for not only that court, but the community to go through another trial. And it's not just that judge. It's not this case. That's what judges do. Judges are trying to resolve, and then if there are disputable issues of fact or law, that's what trials are for. But that's the same thing going on in every single criminal and civil courtroom across the country, trying to resolve cases amicably.
Yeah, and Jennifer, I saw you shaking your head. This isn't going to end anywhere, right? Quickly.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, no way. There is no way. I mean, look at the fact that Alan Jackson is now coming on to bolster the civil side of things. They do not want to lose. They want a full-on 100% victory with this, so they are not going to acquiesce. So therefore, we're going to have a trial.
Okay, well, we'll be watching, that's for sure.